Hello, and welcome to Dead Letter Movie Chat, Episode 1, March 31st, 2014. I'm Tim.
I'm Andrew.
And we're going to talk tonight about the Lego Movie, and Divergent, and Muppets Most Wanted.
Mm-hmm.
So, Andrew, your thoughts on the Lego Movie?
My thoughts on the Lego Movie is, okay, the first thing that when I left the theater, the first thing I thought was, like, this is a very pro-imagination movie. And in this day and age, I feel like that doesn't happen a lot. And that could be because there's a lot of things that aren't really original ideas anymore. Not to say that this is a 100% original idea, but the fact of the matter is the film is very pro-using your imagination. It's very pro-playing. It's very much into the idea of children making up their own story. And that was something that was, I don't know, something that was very important to me and something I really liked about this film. Yeah, that was one of the first big things I took from it that I really liked. I also liked the fact that the style of it was, even if it wasn't stop motion, things were made to have it look stop motion. And I think I feel like that's greatly missing out animation-wise in the world these days. We don't really get that anymore.
Yeah, I think that's true. There's not nearly as much stop motion, although there have been a few stop motion full-length pictures recently, and a couple more coming this year, actually.
Yeah.
But yeah, I loved the combination of stop motion and CG. It created a really unique look. The CG models were of course actually, you know, they scanned Lego minifigs, so that's what those were. They had the same basic constraints. You know,
yeah.
It can move in this way, but not in that. So that was great. I agree. This was a very creative film. Very much about, you know, no bones about it. I mean, it's a commercial for Lego.
Oh, totally.
But at the same time, it plays what I think is one of Lego's best qualities is that it encourages, you know, kids to use their imagination and come up with their own things. And I liked how that played out in everything, and in all the combination, how all these different Lego pieces and minifigs from all kinds of different franchises could come together and be in one environment, and how some of the dialogue really sounded like something you know, like an 8-year-old kid would come up with when he was playing with Lego.
Absolutely.
So I loved that.
This is probably one of the few chances that we would ever get to have something have both Star Wars and Batman in a film together. Like, it just seems unlikely that it would happen otherwise.
Yeah. And let's see, some Harry Potter stuff.
Yeah.
One of the Ninja Turtles. Shaq was in the movie.
Yeah, as his Lego self.
Yeah. I had no idea Shaq was ever a Lego minifig. But
it doesn't really surprise me, but there's a lot. I don't know. You could have told me that there was like a Leona Helmsley Lego, and I would have believed it. I mean, it's just Lego has, I don't know, they have that magic. They're like, hey, you want to be a Lego? Yeah!
Yeah. And there are now actual Simpsons Lego sets.
Yeah!
Which they actually introduced some of the minifigs in this movie before they were available on the market. So I thought that was kind of neat.
I think there's a Ghostbusters thing as well that's coming out.
I've seen some of those models. The model of the Ectomobile in Lego is really pretty neat.
Yes, so it just kind of goes to show that nothing can stop the Lego. Another thing that I really liked about this movie was that its voice talent was actually used very well. It was, I mean, of course, Morgan Freeman would have to do a voice of something because he's Morgan Freeman. But who I really think did a great job was actually Liam Neeson.
Liam Neeson was really great in this.
We forget that he can be funny.
it's not something he does very often.
Yeah, for a man,
he's not often asked to be funny, so we don't get that much.
Yeah, for a man who's like 60 or so, he's like become this big action star. So, like, not like in the sense that, you know, Bruce Willis was an action star before he became an older action star. This guy is an action star now that he's older, which is
right.
a little unusual.
And this has been going on for about 15 years or so, really, since about I hate to bring it up, but Star Wars Episode 1.
Yeah. I mean, that's but it's sort of weird because like Star Wars it's basically an action film when you get to like the way the film is done. I mean, like not like plot wise or anything, but it's it's shot like an action movie is shot with all these big key sequences and stuff like that. So, but you still don't think of him as an action person in that because you just think of him as a Jedi. It's
right.
Yeah, it's a similar thing as how you can make an action movie with samurais or something, and that your genre trappings makes it bad and not an action movie. So it takes a long time for us to think of him as something else. I mean,
that's certainly true.
Mm-hmm. I particularly like the fact that he got to be two different versions of the same character. He got to be a good cop and a bad cop.
Right.
And like I really liked his nice Irish cop versus his bad Irish cop. I mean, it was. I really liked that.
Honestly, I wondered at first. I wasn't sure if the good cop voice was also Liam Neeson.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that's somebody else. The cartoony falsetto thing that didn't quite sound like Liam Neeson but no, that was, by golly, that was him.
That was him. He had a similar voice when he guest starred on The Simpsons. Actually, he played a priest, and an Irish priest, of course, and that's how I was able to that is him. So,
yeah. I will say most of my laugh out loud, really really funny moments that just made me crack up came from Will Arnett as Batman.
It's Batman
in this movie.
The darkness.
Yeah.
I don't know. Will Arnett just gets to talk in that voice, and really truly, they only get away with it because Christian Bale portrays Batman with that voice.
It was really kind of a caricature of Christian Bale's really sort of caricature. When he's Batman as opposed to Bruce Wayne.
Yeah,
which is part of who Batman is. Yeah, that's part of how he distinguishes. But yeah, so that was really great. That was an inspired call. Whoever said we should get Will Arnett to do this.
Exactly. Interesting bit of trivia. This is like the fourth movie that Morgan Freeman has been in that features Batman.
That's true. All three of the Dark Knight trilogy movies with Christian Bale done by
the third with Liam Neeson, actually. Now that I think of it,
that's true. Neeson was in that last one, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was for like that long.
Yeah, he had 2 lines. Yeah. Oh boy, that was a little weird. I love they also got Billy D. Williams.
Yeah,
was Lando in this movie.
Yeah, but Harrison Ford wasn't.
Harrison Ford was not, but Anthony Daniels was 3PO. Yeah. So yeah, there were some great bits. Some of the variant Lego models of some of the Star Wars stuff. How the Millennium Falcon in one scene was one of the more one of the larger, more detailed models, and then there was a later scene where they used one of the smaller, little $10 ones you'd find on a shelf, and you can see there are a lot fewer studs on it.
Yeah.
So this I had a lot of fun watching the Lego Movie. I thought it was a great palate cleanser after a very heavy award season.
All those terrible. Well, they weren't terrible, but all those wrenching Oscar movies.
Yeah. This was very, very light, very silly. Didn't take itself too seriously at all. Not really by any stretch a great movie.
Oh no, but
very, very It was a good movie. It was a lot of fun. Well worth the time and money, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So, all right.
So you want to should we assign it a grade? I guess.
Yeah. Let's. I'll say B plus.
Mm-hmm.
This was I felt like it could have had a little something more. I couldn't really put my finger on what. I mean, it's easy to armchair quarterback here.
Yeah.
But no, I thought it was really well made. Yeah. there wasn't really anything that didn't work in this movie. It was imaginative. It was creative. It was fun, and it felt totally believable. I bought pretty much everything they were selling. So,
and that is something that doesn't happen a lot in movies, and that's a good thing. The only thing I'm also going to say B plus. Having walked away from the film and talked to other people about it, it does seem to be a movie that men really, really like, and there are a lot of girls that do like it. I'm not going to say that doesn't happen, but there's always, like, I usually talk about it with other like with the women I work with and the women the woman I'm married to and the one and my sister, and they aren't as. It isn't as magical for them as it is for
and I can kind of see that. For whatever reason, not to play gender stereotypes here too much.
Yeah,
Lego does seem to be more of a boys thing than girls. I don't really know why that is. But that kind of seems to be the case. So it's not all that surprising that there'd be a little more response on that side. So.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense, but at the same time, it kind of bums me out at the same time.
A little.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like there could have been, like, a way to make it more appealing to women, because it seems more like a great movie for a kid, like a dad and son to watch together because of that. And when it's a family movie, it should be for the whole family. That said, I do think it's going to be a hard movie to beat for the animation Oscar this year.
I agree. I don't know what else. Yeah, that's true. So, Disney's got some entries later this year. There are, as I mentioned, a couple of stop motion films that we're going to be seeing. So, Pixar's got something. I don't even remember what their movie is this year. But all right. So, moving on. Divergent.
Divergent, yes.
I actually saw this just yesterday, so this is freshest in my mind. This is another one of your young adult sort of tween literature, dystopic future with a few sci-fi trappings. So it's going to draw a lot of comparison to, say, The Hunger Games, because it's very, very much targeting the same demographic, to a somewhat lesser extent the Twilight crowd. I really enjoyed this, actually. Again, not a great movie, but I felt myself, for my take, having not read the book and having not read The Hunger Games or seen the second movie in that franchise, I felt like the characters in this movie had more depth than in the first Hunger Games film. I felt more connected to the characters of Triss and Four in this movie than I did to, say, Katniss Everdeen and Peeta in the Hunger Games. So they felt more real to me. And this did kind of run long, and to me left some questions that were kind of unanswered that I wasn't clear on, like the specific motivation of the villain. There are these people that want to assume power and wipe out this other group. I wasn't really clear on why they plainly believed that they were right to do so, which makes for compelling villains.
Yeah.
But I wasn't really. I didn't feel like their motivation was explained terribly well. Why did they think this would accomplish those goals? What was the threat that they felt they were facing, that they were going to be eliminating?
Right. And that's probably something that would be cleared up in subsequent films. I had also not read the book that this is based off of. My wife had, and actually she's a pretty big fan of them. She enjoyed them a lot. So I would ask her, like, what's going on? And I agree with, like, I'm not like it was a hard to follow film. It was just more like, so what does this mean? Like, it's whatever. So the funny thing about this movie was, I agree, it is definitely playing into the Hunger Games and to a lesser extent Twilight crowd. But I felt, and my wife would probably disagree with me on this, but I felt that there was like a total Sorting Hat scene. So this total Harry Potter part, because, like, and there was like this, like, There's even like the Slytherins and like the Hufflepuff type things.
I had the same moment. This was more of a science fiction-y type, semi near future sorting hat as opposed to magic. This was supposed to be technology that wasn't really explained, but wasn't really important. The mechanics of it, it's just we have this thing and it does this.
Right.
So the basic premise is there's been some huge war, and the city of Chicago has somehow escaped the ravages to a large extent, but in order to survive, they've decided to basically implement a sort of a caste system, whereby upon reaching maturity, everybody is sorted into one of it's 5 factions.
5 factions, yes.
Each representing a distinct virtue. Divergent refers to the title. The main character, the protagonist, Triss, who doesn't fit just one category. She diverges from the norm, and for some reason, the shadowy villain figures believe that's represents a threat to the society.
Yes.
So.
Yeah. Well, it's just like future Nazis. I mean, we always like. It's a thing in fantasy literature is the the Nazi equivalent. I mean, we had like a good chunk of Slytherin house, what is it, the capital. It's just it's a thing that happens. It's a trope within a lot of science fiction literature. Making this like Harry Potter thing and this Nazi thing, however, is not saying that this is bad. They utilize these things actually very well. I actually enjoyed this film quite a lot. I'm willing to go see the sequel because I kind of want to know what's going on. I may or may not read the books. I am unsure at this point because I have quite a heavy reading load this year.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat.
Yeah,
but yeah,
the thing that I really liked about this was the performance of Shailene Woodley. Yeah. And I'd seen her before in other things, of course. I had seen her in The Descendants, where I think that was like her breakout. Like, oh, the girl from that TV show can act. And she's actually very great in that.
Yeah.
In the funny thing in this is that 2 of the actors that are in this film, the guy who plays Peter and the guy who's her brother, are actually her love interests in other movies. The guy who plays Peter was her love interest in The Spectacular Now, which the book was fabulous. And then her brother, their love interests in The Fault in Our Stars, which comes out later this year, which is also a fabulous book. So and so Shailene is like the queen of young adult adaptations right now.
And I'm okay with that. Jennifer Lawrence, apart from the Hunger Games, has moved into other she's very, very different kinds of roles, which she's doing well with. I'd like to see her do something a little more diverse than that. She's in the upcoming X-Men movie as well, but yeah, I really enjoyed watching Shailene Woodley work in this movie. She like you said, I really thought she did great. Everybody did great in The Descendants. The characters in that were just so three-dimensional. I believe each of them was real and had their own backstories and all these things in their lives that weren't ever going to be on screen because they weren't important to the central story, but they made me believe they were there. I didn't get quite that out of this, but it was a very different kind of movie, and that wasn't really the focus. So really good turn by some very talented young actors.
Another thing that I think is very important to note about this film is that, unlike a lot of the teenage, literature adaptations or teenage literature in general, there is no love triangle in this film.
Which I really appreciated, and I thought again, comparing to the Hunger Games, I thought that felt very, very awkward and not terribly natural. You can write that, but I didn't really feel it from what I saw on screen.
Right. It is better in the second film.
Okay.
I will say that. But yeah, so I guess I guess when it comes to Divergent, I would say that I was very well entertained. I actually enjoyed it a lot. I'm not a big science fiction guy, but I really like dystopia films. They are like that is like my subgenre that I'm very much into. I mean,
yeah, and there were a couple of science fiction elements to this, but it wasn't really a sci-fi film per se.
Yeah.
I mean, they made the computers, futuristic and fancy and flashy,
Yeah.
and they had this, personality evaluating technology that we don't have, but that was really just a means to drive the plot and not in and of itself necessarily a focus.
Right.
They just kind of lay that out. This exists in the world, and this is what it means, and then you move on with the rest of the story.
Right.
So, but yeah, I agree. I think it does play to one of the great things about science fiction when it's really good is it acts as a lens on our society as it is now. It makes us look at ourselves, and I didn't feel that, at least as a film, Divergent was quite that thought-provoking.
Yeah.
I think there's more to be said, more questions to get the audience to ask, and I feel like there's going to have to be more of that in the sequel than there was in this one, but
Yeah.
I thought this was a good starting point. Yes,
and see, I'm excited to see what happens in later films, and I think that's a pretty big deal. So I guess ultimately how I felt was this film is I gave it a grading of B because it's very great. It's very entertaining. I rather enjoyed it. I think both men and women will like it. Going back to the Lego Movie problem.
I love that there was a strong female lead in this that was really an admirable character, and there wasn't really anything to say because she's female something is different about her. She is on equal terms with every other character she encounters.
Right. I don't really have any major complaints with the film. It's done. It's made very well. It may drag a little, but it's not like terrible. So I don't know. Ultimately, I think some of the problem is that sometimes I don't believe the love story, and I actually don't think that's the chemistry of Shalene and Theo James, because I actually think they actually have something really great going on as actors bouncing off of each other. I think ultimately, I'm not sure what it is. It may just be like the way they say stuff. I don't know. The ludicrousness of that "Can I see your tattoos?" Scene was a little played out, but that was a little bit obvious. It's like, hey, we're gonna get the male lead to take his shirt off. I was like, I didn't go to Twilight for a reason.
Right.
So I mean, that was like the only moment I was like, really, we were doing so good. I'd say it's a solid B, and I'm totally willing to go see the other films. So that I think is a pretty good endorsement.
I agree. B for the problems I mentioned earlier. Lack of clarity in the antagonist's motivation.
Right. And what's with that guy who looks like Macklemore? I mean, that was a terrible haircut on a guy.
Sorry,
it's really hard for me to take a villain seriously if he looks like a pop star from now. Sorry, that had very little to do with the lot, but
yeah. Also, it's not a requirement, but it helps to be in Dauntless if you're also a massive jerk.
Yeah, that's true. I guess that's part of it. Whatever.
Yeah. So B from me as well.
Cool.
All right. Muppets Most Wanted.
Muppets Most Wanted, the sequel to Jason Segel's efforts of bringing the Muppets back. This film is definitely all heart. It has a very great Muppet caper feel to it, in my opinion. There are a lot
of similarities. Yeah,
there's a lot of similarities. There's now I'm a pretty big Muppets fan. I like them. I grew up watching the Muppets in various forms. Tim is even more hardcore than I am. Tim listens to like podcasts and probably wrote some Muppet Wiki article on somebody. I wouldn't be surprised, but. I found myself really enjoying this. But at the same time, it always seemed to have these moments where I was like, that could have been better. The cameos are pretty good, actually. They're not as good as the last one. The last one, I think, is the Muppet film The Beat in many ways. It's not the last film, The Muppets, it's not my favorite Muppet film. My favorite Muppet film is actually Muppets from Space, because it's Gonzo-centric, and I really like Gonzo. But that's the one that a lot of people don't like, so everything you hear coming out of my mouth from here on out, there's your grain of salt. The thing that is really, like, that's kind of the fault in this movie is that a lot of its jokes fall flat. It is funny, though. I'm not going to say that it's not, like, there's not a lot of stupid humor, and there's a really good in-joke where they talk about how they had Walter come in for the last Muppet movie at the expense of characters like Rizzo and Robin the Frog, and Rizzo makes a point of this, which is the thing that I missed from the other one. Like, I really wanted Rizzo the Rat in the last movie, and, like, I don't know, the fact that joke got made, I laughed really hard at that.
Yeah, I laughed at that. That was a great bit.
I'm fine with Robin the Frog not being in anything ever again, though. Oh!
Oh. I mean,
Scrabby Doo of the Muppets.
I'm going to stop you there because the real Scrappy Doo of the Muppets is in fact Bean Bunny.
Oh God, you're right. Okay, I take that back. I take it back.
Robin's all heart, and you kind of have to take him in small doses, but okay, but like you said, I'm a lifelong Muppet fan, so everything I have to say about this movie, you have to understand, comes from a place of a great love for the Muppets, and all the work of Jim Henson and all of his troupe of performers and puppet makers and all the craft that grew up around this, and the current crop of performers, which really don't include any of the original cast anymore, with the exception of Dave Goelz, who does Gonzo and Bunsen Honeydew and a few others. But like you said, this I felt like a lot of things fell kind of flat in this movie. There were an awful lot of similarities in terms of not just the plot, but some of the gags and the bits they did to The Great Muppet Caper, which my favorite Muppet movie is their first, is The Muppet Movie.
That's a good one.
Yeah, the self-titled, and that to me, they've never topped that. That's just about the best the Muppets have ever been. There was nothing in that movie that didn't work. And then they did The Great Muppet Caper, which it was still good. There are a lot of neat technical things they did with the puppets, and a lot of the gags they did were great, but it felt a little too self-aware at times. This one, I don't think it had that problem as much. I mean, the Muppets are always kind of tongue-in-cheek. They tell bad jokes, but they know they're bad, and they groan at themselves with the audience. I didn't get that much here. Like there wasn't a lot of stupid humor, as you said, but some of the bad gags and jokes that they did, they just kind of did them and played them straight,
right? Which
didn't quite work as well for me personally. I loved the opening number.
That was great. Yeah, the songs are still great.
That was phenomenal. It took a little while for me to come down off of that for that to really. Yeah, I loved it. I just that was incredible.
That was really good.
So, we didn't have the problem like we did in the last one of focusing too much on the human characters, where a lot of the focus in the Muppets came from Jason Segel and Amy Adams and their sort of romantic storyline, which wasn't terrible, but if you're going to go see a movie called The Muppets, you expect it to be more about the Muppets.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I there were a lot of Muppets in this one that made brief appearances, even if they didn't have speaking lines. There was one from way back called Mildred who actually had a couple of lines on the train.
Yeah.
So I thought that was neat to see her. I like that Rizzo got a couple of lines and Robin showed up just briefly. The Tina Fey's character of a gulag warden, I felt like was a great idea, and Tina Fey's funny. Nobody's gonna argue that she isn't, and yeah, if someone does, honestly, they need to go and have their sense of humor examined because something's wrong with it.
Yeah.
But I felt like she kind of swung between a little too over the top and too nonsensical when she was a little bit more grounded.
Mm-hmm.
And I honestly kind of felt the same way about Ty Burrell as a French Interpol agent. Yeah. Although I loved the interaction between him and Sam Eagle, as American CIA, which they didn't address. Sam is not part of the Muppets now. He's an American CIA agent. They just threw it out there. That's as it should be. Loved that. I felt like there were a lot of things with Ricky Gervais's character, and to a lesser extent with Kermit's doppelganger character of Constantine, that they probably even shot and got left on
just
the cutting room.
Use.
Yeah. Because I felt like there were a lot of dangling plot threads and hooks that were just left out there to dry on the line.
Mm-hmm. I don't know. Like, I kind of felt like the way you felt about Ty and Tina. I totally agree with you, but I also kind of felt that way about Ricky Gervais too.
I did a bit as well, but I thought he felt a bit more at home with the Muppets than did the other two.
Right. He definitely had a Charles Grodin feel to him, to go back to like the caper.
He really did.
Thing. I don't know. There were times I was like, okay, this is working out fine. And then there was like other times like, and we went with Ricky Gervais for this, and I don't know, it was very interesting. My favorite human actor part of this was something that's a little bit more than a cameo, and it's the fact that it's not really a cameo because he kind of has like a part sort of, and it's Danny Trejo apparently playing himself.
I got a kick out of that when he was first addressed by name in the movie was a lights out call in the gulag and Tina Fey called, good night Danny Trejo. After all these hardened criminal street names, Danny Trejo is just Danny Trejo.
Danny Trejo. Another thing about that is actually the gulag attendants. I enjoyed a lot. Jermaine from Flight of the Conchords is really funny as the prison king, and the fact I just love it when Ray Liotta is funny. Ray Liotta doesn't get to be funny a whole lot, and this is the second time he's been in a Muppet movie, and I think that's kind of neat in its own way. That's a neat little superlative, and I don't know. So I enjoyed the prison scenes a lot, even if Tina, like not the character, not Tina necessarily, was kind of iffy. But the gulag scenes with those with the various jail members, I thought were actually pretty great. Even though the idea of staging a chorus line, or well, not really, but using a chorus line with prison mates is a little hilarious in a ludicrous sort of way.
That felt very Muppety to me.
It felt incredibly Muppety.
That worked.
Well, that's the thing. Like, you think about it, you're like, why did that work? But it does. The songs by Brett McKenzie are still pretty good. The one thing, though, is I kind of felt like the songs of the Muppets didn't feel like a Flight of the Conchords songs. Whereas I feel like probably other than the opening song, the other the hit single type song of this film is this song called I'll Give You What You Want, where
the disco number.
The disco number, Kangaroo Cockatoo in Malibu, that Constantine sings to Miss Piggy and the rest of the Muppets to sort of win them over. And that was when it was playing over the credits, at the end of the film, I was like, this is a total Flight of the Conchords song.
It really, really was, and it felt slightly out of place for that.
Yeah. However, but I only noticed that when they were playing like a refrain at the end credits. I didn't notice it when I was in the film. So I don't know. That's the thing that happens a lot, though. When you see something in the film and when you listen to it on the soundtrack album, they are very different things. So I don't know. There's that.
So the other thing about the music that got me, and this kind of rubbed me a little bit the wrong way, and not got my hackles up, but was I felt a real missed opportunity. Kind of like in the 2011 film where they did Rainbow Connection.
Right.
That was a shameless play to grab on the goodwill of the existing Muppet fan base. Hey, it's this great old Muppet song from way back when. Remember how great it was.
Yeah.
And for the finale in this one, they pulled another song from a previous Muppet film, from Muppets Take Manhattan, and just reworked it ever so slightly. And I thought that really you couldn't have maybe done a reprise of the opening number, or something else, as opposed do something a little bit more original. I mean, the Muppets are about heart and remembering where they came from and the nostalgia, but they're also about where they're going and what are we doing now. So
and that's why, like, as shameless as it is to have Rainbow Connection in that other film, it works because that film is a lot about that film is about nostalgia, and this one is moving on into other things. So to have like this little bit of something from Take Manhattan, it seems a little, I don't know, it just seems out of place in this film. So I mean, I see what you're saying there. Also, no chickens clucking a song. What's that about?
I know.
Yeah. That was probably the other hit single of the last movie.
Yeah, there were no singing pigs in either the Lego Movie or Divergent, so the Muppets had that going for them.
That is very true. It's very true. I guess if I were to assign a grade to it, it's not the worst Muppet movie.
No, I have to agree with you there. It's not. But it's a far cry from their best, in my opinion.
Yes. So I ended up giving this a B- because there's a lot of... I enjoyed it a lot. I'll probably watch it again. It's for what's good and what's funny. It's actually very funny and very, very smart in its own way. It is, however, it does have a fair amount of things that just don't quite work all the way. The whole plot with Constantine, I think, is actually a great idea, but sometimes it just feels like we could have done something else here. Not specifically like the plot, but something in using that plot. Things will fall flat from time to time. I could give you specific things, but I don't want to spoil anything, so yeah.
Yeah, agree. I don't want to spoil here too much either. I'll give this one a C+, honestly. Again, lifelong Muppet fan. I love these guys. I'm on board. I was going to go see this movie anyway.
Yeah.
But I felt like this had a lot more problems. I felt like the script really needed to be tightened up a lot more. There were too many loose threads, too many places where it snagged and things left hanging. And some of the gags, like I said, that's Muppety, but you should have either tightened this up, kept it a little bit simpler, or maybe kept it a lot simpler and made it a like an hour-long TV special. It might have worked better in a shorter format.
They're very good at
less
that.
going on. Yeah, I would love to see the Muppets return to television. I think they can. They've proven that they can do that. The reason the Muppet Show only ran 5 seasons is that Jim Henson wanted to go out while they were still on top before it got started degrading. Yeah. So I don't know. It's a different group of people doing it now. So I think they have an opportunity if they can get that going to make it their own thing now. I mean, the 2011 was in some ways kind of a restart, not really a reboot of the Muppets, but sort of a reintroduction. And I went into it knowing that going forward, these may not quite be the same as the Muppets that I remember from my childhood.
I was
but
concerned
going
about
forward, this is what the Muppets are going to be.
Yeah.
And I'm okay with that, and I support this. I want them to keep going. I want to see more Muppet stuff. I just think that they have potential in them to do better than what they did in this movie.
Mm-hmm. Agreed. All right, then. So
All
I
right.
guess that's the short long of it, folks. Or the mostly long of it, perhaps.
So,
all right, then.
This has been episode 1 of
Woo!
Red Letter Movie Chat. You'll find us on YouTube. We'll see you next time. Hope your popcorn is always fresh.
Indeed. And I always recommend using Tapatio.
All right. Good night, folks.
Good night, everybody.